Hi everyone, I'm Spizzy, and you are here to become a better Vanguard player in Marvel Rivals. So this is going to be my in-depth guide on how to become a pro Vanguard player in Marvel Rivals. So let's get into it. The first step to understanding how to play Vanguard in Marvel Rivals is going to be the maps. Actually, let's back it up a little bit. Before I get into that, I want to tell you guys that this is going to be more of a guide on the role Vanguard itself and not essentially specific guides for each character, for each Vanguard. So take it with a grain of salt when I'm telling you about who to play. Most of the time it's going to be based on certain things, and I'll go into that. So just so you have the little warning, so you're not going in the comments and being like, oh, I play this guy on this map all the time, or I play this guy all the time. You know, you could do what you want, obviously, but this is if you're trying to get better. Obviously, what you're doing isn't working, so that's why you're here. Now, let's get into it. The first step to understanding how to play Vanguard's Marvel Rivals is understanding who to pick in what situation, and when, and where, why, what. So, first thing, you have the maps. There's 3 different type of modes for maps. There is convoy maps. So you essentially have 2 different teams. You have an attack team and a defend team, and then you swap after the round is over. These maps include Midtown, Spider Islands, and a Drizzle Path. Then the next type of mode is domination. Domination is essentially a king of the hill. You have the area, you need to capture the area, bring it up to 100%, not let the other team capture it, and so on. So the maps for this are Burning T'Challa, Hell's Haven, Royal Palace, and there is the last game mode, Convergence. Convergence is where the 2 modes converge. It is a combination of King of the Hill, and it is a combination of Convoy. You have a little area that you need to capture at the beginning, then the convoy drops down, and then you need to push it to the other side. Those maps are Hall of Dahlia, Shin Shibuya, and Symbiotic Surface. So, now that you know the maps, I know that's very basic. A lot of people already know the maps. But you need to understand what you're supposed to be doing in the maps. That's the problem, is that people don't understand that there's 2 different sides and there's different things you need to do for the maps. So I already gave you the warning before, but just remember, this does not incorporate your team. This is just the ideas and the mentality you want to be in when you're playing a Vanguard in Marvel Rivals in order to get better, in order to understand the game. A lot of people are just playing the game and hoping that their mechanics will take them to the end. And the problem is that's not always the way how to play. That's not the way how you're going to become the best of the best. And this is how you're going to become the best of the best. So continue to listen. Now that we got that out of the way, let's start talking about the push side of objective. So we're talking about the attack side on convoy and convergence maps. Like I said, we'll put them together. So for characters like this, I'm thinking I want to be taking up space. I want to be diving into their team. So I'm thinking essentially Hulk, where he has mobility to get in. He could shield. He could jump out. Thor, he has mobility to get in. He could do little disruptions, get out. Captain America could run in, jump, get out. Characters like that, Venom. All those characters have ways to get into their backline, to get into their team, to apply pressure pretty immediately as soon as that you hit your cooldowns. Those are the characters that I would recommend for the attack side. And like I said, this isn't taking into your team comp at all. This is just the general basis. And then on defense, you want to think about protecting your team. You want to think about not letting the attackers take space, right? On attack, you want to take space. You want to apply pressure. On defense, you want to try to release some of that pressure and not allow the space to be taken. So you want to play characters with walls. You want to play characters like Magneto, who can just absorb all the damage. You want to play characters like Doctor Strange, who could absorb all that coming in. Penny, because you can set up little traps and then they all blow up if they jump in. Groot is really good because he could wall off the other defenders when they try jumping in, or players trying to jump in and then jump out. They won't be able to jump out. So those are the 2 roles of the attack and defense side. Those are who you could play on attack and defense. And I want to go into the team comps now. So you know what the maps are. You know what the objectives are on the maps, either attack or defend. You know kind of who to play in those situations generally without taking a look at your team. Well, now we're going to take a look at your team. There's a lot of team comps you could come up with in Marvel Rivals. There's so many things I've seen out there, so many things that work, so many things that don't work. But understanding the general use for each character in the game will also help you understand what your team comp is. Even though you may think that you don't have a team comp right now, or you may think that the players that you're playing are all just random, sometimes they do cooperate with each other. Marvel Rivals has, the team up abilities, which kind of helps make team comps easier to form just by people wanting to pair up with their team ups. So in order for you to identify what your team comp is, I made a little quiz. So let me pull that up real quick. All right, so we are now at the world's hardest team comp quiz. This has been created by the creators themselves. It's the hardest quiz you will ever see. So we will start off with question 1. Well, our team comp 1. Hulk, Thor, Psylocke, Magic, Cloak, and Luna. What kind of team comp do you think this is? Let me know. I'll give you like a second. Okay, so if you said A, dive comp, you would be correct. This is a dive comp since you have characters that could dive in and also escape. Hulk, Thor, Psylocke, Magic, they all are really good at diving in and escaping. Cloak and Luna both have, not essentially dive characters. Cloak is more dive than Luna is, but, Luna's in there, and as long as that the majority of your team's a comp, then it's a comp. Now, the second one, Doctor Strange, Magneto, Punisher, Winter Soldier, Rocket, and Adam Warlock. We have either an anti-dive comp, a poke comp, or a dive comp. What do you think? I'll give you a second to answer. So, we have a poke comp. This is essentially a team where you kind of just keep shooting at them until you get off a pick, and then that's when you start moving in. Or if you're on defense, you're kind of just shooting at them, trying to wall them off, trying to get them out of your area, and try not to let them take space. On defense, this is very good. On attack, this is a little worse. But, like I said, there's situations that could still work. Now, we're going to go into our third question here. Groot, Penny, Namor, Winter Soldier, Rocket, Luna. Is this a dive comp, a poke comp, an anti-dive comp? Well, if you were guessing and this was on a test, you would guess that we already had a dive comp. You would guess we already had a poke comp. So it's probably an anti-dive comp, and you would be correct. This is an anti-dive comp because this punishes people who dive. Groot could wall off his teammates from his healers. Penny could, set up traps so then they all explode. Namor has his little squid things that shoot out his little whatever they shoot out, and that damages them. And so on. Luna could freeze them if they jump in. Now, the last one. I guess I got lazy with the animations here. Number 4. Punisher, Hela, Hawkeye, Spider-Man, Mantis, Luna. This is either A poke comp, B, a dive comp, or C, your team most of the time, which is why you lose games. And I kind of spoiled the answer, but obviously it's C, your team most of the time, which is why you lose games. Obviously, this comp doesn't have your defenders at all, so if they just push in at all and push into you guys and just walk at you, have a shield or two, they're going to be able to take out your team like it was nothing. So now that you know about the comps, you have to think about some things that counter your comps. So there are some Vanguards that are better than others against certain comps, like I said. So like a poke comp, you would kind of want a shield. You want something that could block the damage so then you could start to push forward a little bit. Now, like I said, on attack, you might want like Thor or something like that. But Thor doesn't have a shield, so Thor wouldn't be really good against a poke team. So you want to play characters like Doctor Strange and Magneto, who I normally say would be on defense, but they soak up all that damage that your team would be taking. So in that situation, they would be better. I'm not saying, like I said, that certain things don't work in situations. Here's ones that it's different. Also, if they have an anti-dive comp like Namor or Groot, like I was saying before, where they could separate you from your team, you want to make sure to play Vanguard that has movement abilities. You want to make sure that you could get out. So anti-dive and dive kind of counter each other, but at the same way, the way to counter anti-dive is kind of dive because you could at least get out. Or just don't dive and go a little slower with poke. So you want to either play Vanguard that has movement or just don't dive in. Before I continue, I want you guys to know that I will be making more in-depth guides of characters, so let me know who you want. If you have these mindsets when you go into these games, you're going to get better over time. You're going to understand the game, you're going to understand your role, and you're going to help your whole team play better. So this last section is kind of going to be a little tips and tricks section. If you are a solo tank, your goal, throw everything else out of the window. Throw the attack side out, push side out, everything out of the window. Your goal as a tank is to stay alive. If you are a solo tank, that's your only goal. Stay alive, don't die. As soon as you die, they dive your team, you lose. So you need to make sure to be using natural cover like walls. You need to make sure to be using your cooldowns, but don't use them too quickly. Use them when you need them and use them to either escape or to stay in the fight. Magneto has his shield and his bubble. They will help him stay in. Whereas, Venom will be able to stay in with his E, but then he has to swing out or he'll end up dying after he uses his cooldowns. And that leads into my second tip is pay attention to your cooldowns. Learn how your cooldowns work together. Learn kind of how you want to use your cooldowns. Some characters you want to use one thing before you use the other thing. Like Hulk, I see a lot of people. You could either throw the shield on your team and then jump in and the shield's still on you for a second or two, and then you can use your other abilities and then jump out. Or you could jump in, then use the shield. The problem with jumping in, then using the shield is that when you're using the shield, you're not attacking for like a second or two. So you're kind of missing out on a little bit of damage. So that's a sense where you probably want to throw the shield, then jump, then attack. Another thing, we're going back to 2-tank meta. If you're a dive tank, you don't want to go too hard, right? You want to dive, but you want to make sure that your team's ready for the dive. You want to look behind you, make sure that there's 5 players behind you or 4 besides the other tank. And you want to make sure that if you're going in, they're not getting dove on while you're trying to dive in. Also, one of the things I like to do is, I guess this would be the third tip, is have one tank that's kind of like the main tank. They're the tank that's right in front. They just keep attacking and putting up walls, stuff like that, putting up blocks. They're kind of the central, staying on the payload, stopping them from pushing it type tanks. I like to have the second tank be on the side, save their cooldowns, use their cooldowns to protect themselves, get in poke damage and stuff on the side, and then, back up when they use their cooldowns, and then go back in when they have their cooldowns. And then, rinse and repeat. But, you want to have a main tank and a side tank. My fourth tip is a lot of tanks combo. A lot of their ults combo with other characters. If you're like a Groot or a Strange, you combo extremely well with Moon Knight. You combo with Iron Man. You combo with Punisher. Literally any ult you could combo with Groot and Doctor Strange. Their ults are really good because it pulls everybody in. They get stunned. So their ults are really good to combo. So you want to look at your team and make sure that you know what they could do. You want to know what they could do, so then you know what you could do. You want to know how you could combo with them. Essentially, this is what I'm trying to tell you, the mindset. My second and last tip is to understand the cooldowns of your enemies, right? We've been talking a lot about cooldowns. I could go more in-depth videos of characters, but right now I just want to do the mindset, the general. I said it plenty of times. I just want you guys, to get that down. I'll go more in depth, but you want to pay attention to the enemy cooldowns as well. If Venom swings in to your team and you happen to catch him, use his E early, or he doesn't use his E and you end up freezing him or stunning him or something like that, then Venom's just gonna die. Also, mainly for like dive tanks, you want to pay attention to what the supports do on the other team. If the supports use all their abilities and they have no way to escape, they use their escape abilities, dive on them, knock them out, get rid of them, tell team, yo, I'm diving in, I gotta get them. They don't have their abilities, stuff like that. So then your team knows, all right, he's diving in, he's gonna get them. So then they could actually come back up and support you. That too, communication is huge for the game. You need to make sure to communicate with your teammates. You need to at least generally, they need to get the feel of how you play. If they know how you play, then they know how they could play. Sometimes some people just don't listen, but that's just the nature of the game. And finally, the most important step is if you want to continue to get better at Marvel Rivals, make sure to drop a like, hit the sub, and comment what you want to see next, who you want to see, and if you enjoyed, make sure to let me know. And also, everybody, have a great day.